Hi friends, and welcome back to my quilt room, and welcome to Tuesday Threads Beyond the Quilt, where I bring you weekly videos on little projects that you can make for yourself, for your family, for gift giving, or just because. This week we're going to do fabric baskets, and I have a bunch here to show you, some that are different sizes, some that are made out of batting, some that are made out of just fusible interfacing, and even teeny weeny ones like this. We also have this big one with handles. I'm going to show you that. So let me get my supplies and let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to show you the different baskets I made. Now this basket here, this was used, these three are all squared. This one is an oval, and I'll give you the dimensions of that in a minute. This one was used with batting. You can see it's like fluffier than the others. And this one was used with just fusible interfacing on one side of the fabric. So I did it on the outer fabric. This was also used with fusible interfacing, and I did it on the outside of the fabric, on the outer fabric. This was a 6-inch square. This was a 9-inch square, and this was a 9.5-inch square. So that's those three. Now this one was a 12-inch by 8-inch. So 12 long, 8 inches high. And that made a cute little oval one. And then this one was 17 by 12.5. And then we added handles for this. So I'm going to show you that. Now the other thing that I had discovered in making these, before I even made the handle one, was the person I saw making these hand stitched the inside, like this closure here, to make it double-sided. And after I thought about this, after making a couple of these, I thought, can't we make it double-sided and just not make the opening at the bottom of our lining? So what I did for this one was I stitched it and left the opening here and then turned it inside out. And now you can make it double-sided. See, there's no stitching in here at all. Whereas on this one, I don't know if you could see down there, I'll pull it out. You have the top stitch here. So if you turn that inside out, you would really see that. So that's what I did on this one. And that's how I'm going to do it again when I show you. Now, when I made this one actually called for that same process that I did on this, but I had already made these before I even made this one. So I guess what I thought of was a correct application. So that's the way this one was also done. So let's get started on this. Now the size I'm going to make this one is 8-inch square. So what I did was I cut 4 8-inch squares, 2 for my outer and 2 for my lining. And then I cut 2 fusible interface. Now again, you can use batting. Now if you use the batting, I would suggest that you stitch it so that you can keep those layers together. And that's what I did on this one. Whereas this one, I use the fusible interfacing, and it's not so smooth that you could stitch this if you wanted like a decorative pattern on that, but I didn't feel the need to, so I didn't do that for mine. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take our outer fabric and we're going to iron on our fusible interfacing. So what I do is I just lay my fabric face side down, and the fusible interfacing has like a bumpy side and a smooth side. Now the bumpy side is where the glue is. So I'm going to lay that down on the wrong side of my fabric. And I'm just going to line that up. And I'm going to iron that down. And I'm not going to rub this because I don't want it to move. So until it sticks, I'm just going to move my iron like just up and down, up and down. And once I feel it has an adhesive on it, then I'll move it around. So it's not going to move. And then I usually do the other side just to make sure it's nice and smooth. Now I'm going to do that with my other piece also. I'm going to lay that wrong side up and then lay the bumpy side down on my fabric. And I'm going to iron that down. Again, I'm just going to pick up my iron and place it on there. Move it over a little bit. And then once I feel it is adhered, then I'll move this around to make sure I have all the edges. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to take our outer pieces and we're going to put our lining on top. So right sides together. Now my lining is a solid fabric, so I don't have to worry about that. But if you have two print fabrics, make sure they're right sides together. So now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch at the top 1/4 inch straight down, and on this one or whichever one we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to leave about a 4-inch opening. So I'm just going to grab some pins or clips and I'm just going to clip these. And then for this one I'm just going to leave like 4 inches. You can measure if you want. And I'm not going to sew there. So I'm going to take that to the machine and I'll be right back. Okay, so we have these all stitched down now. We have this one all the way across, and then this one we left about 4 inches here. So now what we want to do is we want to take this and we want to iron those seams. And I'm going to iron mine open. You don't have to. You can certainly iron them to one side so that you could nest them easier. But I like this because I can actually fold back that opening and it will, once I put this together, it will fold back nicely when I go to sew that. So I'm going to do that to both of these. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to turn these over and line these up right sides together with the same fabric. So both our outer pieces together and both our lining pieces together. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to match those seams. Okay. And now what we want to do is, and again, this also makes it easier to sew this, because now that we have our opening, we're just going to go to the machine and sew all the way around. We don't have to leave any opening anymore because we already have that. So I'm going to take this to the machine and I'm going to start and go all the way around nonstop, just go all the way around. And I'll do that and be right back. Okay, so now we have that all sewn down and we have our opening right there still. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to box our corners so that our baskets stand up. So I'm going to grab my ruler and my pen. Actually, I'm going to grab 2 pens because since I have a dark fabric on this, I'm going to use a white pen for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a 1 3/4 inch square for this. So I'm going to line up my ruler at 1 3/4, and I'm going to draw a box. Well, two edges at least. Okay, and I'm going to go over to here, and I'm going to do the same thing. And then I'm going to, on my blue, I'm going to line that up. But I'm going to use a white pen for this, since I would probably not see the black. Oops. Okay, so now what we want to do is we just want to take our scissors and we want to cut all these corners out. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to take these corners and we're going to open them up. And then we're going to match our seams. And these you can, like one can go one side, one can go the other. And we're going to match them up. And we're also going to match up all the way to the end. Let me grab a couple clips and I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to clip that center. And this is laying nicely, so you can clip that or you don't have to clip it. Totally up to you. So I'm just going to go to the other side. And I'm going to make sure my seam now is going the same direction this is. So since I bent that this way, I'm going to bend that one this way. And then this one the opposite. So this one will go this way. And I'm going to nest that together. Making sure everything lines up and that they meet. And then what you're going to do is, I'm going to do the same with these two. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go to the machine and you're going to sew this 1/4 inch straight down. So I'm going to do that, this side, and then these two, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have those all sewn down, this end and that end. So now what we want to do is, and we're almost done, we want to take our opening and we want to start pulling right side out. So first I'm going to pull out my main fabric. And I'm just going to pop those corners out. Then I'm going to bring out that lining. Pop those corners out too. Okay. Now we're going to put the lining inside the outer fabric. And we want to try to line up those corners. So let me bring this all the way out first. So that it sits down there nicely. And then I just usually take my fingers and just like push out those corners together. Like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to iron this all the way around just so it sits nicely. So I'm just going to take my iron, make sure these are lined up. If you have any threads, you want to either cut them or push them in. And you want to make sure, cut that one off. You want to make sure that the lining is folded in and meets up with itself. And then I'm going to iron this all the way around just so it sits nicely. Making sure that our lining is sitting inside. You got to roll it or anything to do that. And then those corners, I'm going to make sure where the seams meet. I'm just going to make sure that they're pushed down. Okay, and now what we want to do is you want to take this to the machine and you want to do a top stitch all the way around. So I'm going to take that and I'm just going to do a top stitch. Now to do that, since this is kind of narrow, if you have a machine where you have the You could pull off the little box that holds your like feet or something, pull that off. You can like fit this on and then go around. So let me take it to the machine and I'll show you. Okay, so what I was saying was I have a table on mine. So I'm going to take this off, but sometimes you'll have a piece that hooks into here and it kind of holds your feet and all. In fact, I'll show you mine. Mine is it's like a two-sided one. And, and then this way, your machine is level here. You want to take that off, whether you have both sides or one side, or it doesn't matter. And now you have a narrow piece here where this can go right in here. And then you just put it under your foot and then you just roll it around and stitch it up. So that's what I'm going to do to mine. So let's see if I can show you here. So basically I'm just going to start doesn't matter, wherever you wish. And I'm just going to do like a one back stitch and then just go all the way around. Now when you get to the seams here, you might have to help it across because it's a little thick. So I usually just pull from the other side. And then I'm just going to go around this, pulling it out from the bottom as I go. And when I get back to where I started, I'm just going to do like a back stitch. And that's it. Okay, so now we have that all stitched down. And that will include our opening that we had. And now all we do is, if you want, just fold this down. And there is your little basket. How cute is that? And you could put so many things in this. If you wanted to just use it for your sewing room, you could put your clips in there. You could put some threads in there. Anything that like maybe went handy to put by you can even put your, your little tiny scissors in there. Anything you want handy maybe for your, when you're sewing. Also, anywhere around your house, you could put them. If like this one will fit actually a box of tissues in there. So if you wanted something decorative for your tissues, this one is perfect. So there's so many uses for these and they're really cute. And you could actually like put a gift in that, put some tissue paper in there and put a gift in that. And then they have a basket with their gift, especially this one. This is really cute. You could make a little gift basket out of this. So that's our little baskets. Now I'll put the dimensions for all these in the description. So let me show you how to make this one. And the construction is going to be very similar to these, but we're going to do our box corners a different way. So this is going to be another alternative to the way we boxed those corners. So when I show you, you'll understand. So now for our bigger basket, I'm going to have the same thing, 4 pieces, 2 for our outer fabric and 2 for our lining. And again, you're going to put interfacing, or if you want batting, you could do batting. I'm using the interfacing again. And you're going to iron that down. I've done that on 3 of these. This one looks like it needs a little more. And I've done that on 3 pieces. But I wanted to show you, especially with these larger pieces, what I found was sometimes the interfacing, line this up first. And again, you want to put the rough side down. And what I found with this was, because it's such a big piece, First I pressed it at the bottom to make sure it's stuck. And I found that because it's such a big piece, if you just start pressing, sometimes it can bunch up on you. So what I did was I turn it over, just make sure that that piece is adhered to. And then I lift this up and then I just go down and push this down a little at a time so that it's not bunching up on itself. Because I noticed when I just went press that it's so big that it would like get puckers in it. So I just take my time and I just go down slowly and then just make sure that what I do have down is staying smooth. And I found that to be much better. And then I'll flip it over, make sure it's adhered on this side too. The other thing is sometimes if you don't iron it long enough, it could I get bubbles in it where it's not adhering in certain spots. Okay, so that seems to be holding pretty nicely. So now we have our 4 pieces. And you see here, I don't know if you could see that, but there's like a bubble right there. So it's not adhering right there. So I want to re-iron that. Okay, so that's good. So you just want to pay attention to that too. So now what we're going to do is we're going to first take our outer pieces and we are going to line them up right sides together. And then we're going to box our corners first. Like I might have a thread in there, but that's okay. So for this, I did a 4-inch box corner. So I'm going to take my ruler and my pen, and I'm going to first box my corner. Okay, so I'm going to put it 4 and 4. And then I'm going to draw my lines. Same with the other side. And if you want to clip this so it doesn't move, you can do that. I probably should have done that. Just so it doesn't move on me, because I do see it trying to move. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut those out. Okay. And now what we want to do is I'm just going to put a few clips in here just so this doesn't move. Probably throw one in here and here. So now what we want to do is we want to take this to the machine and we're just going to sew right here, nowhere else, just at the bottom, a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so we have that all sewn down and I'm just going to take my clips out. And what we're going to do is we're going to iron this seam open. So we're just going to take it, open up that seam, and iron it down. And now what we want to do is we want to sew a 1/4 inch in from this edge. So just line your 1/4 inch foot up with this edge here and sew a 1/4 inch on this side and a 1/4 inch on this side. And basically what that's going to do is that's going to reinforce this bottom piece. So I'm going to do that and then I'll be right back. Okay, so we have that sewn down and this is what it looks like. Here's our seam right in the middle and we sewed a 1/4 inch on both sides. So now what we want to do is we want to take this and we want to fold this right sides together again. And I'm just going to grab my clips and I'm going to clip this top piece. And I'm going to clip the sides also, because now what we want to do is we want to sew these side seams. I'm just going to fold that back like this. You can also, if you're worried about this bulging at the bottom when you're sewing it, you can just put a clip like on either side of there. So it holds it down a little. Now what you want to do is you want to take it to the machine and again, a 1/2 inch, you're going to sew on both sides. Now when you're sewing all these seams, and sorry if I didn't mention that, you're back stitching when you start and when you stop. So we're going to back stitch at the beginning and back stitch at the end, and we're going to sew 1/2 inch down this side and this side, just like these side pieces. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have those side seams sewn down, and what we want to do is we want to iron those open. So the easiest way I found was to just fold this over and iron that down. We could take these off too. And then flip it and then fold that side open. And then that will open your seam. So I'm going to do that with this side. Okay, so now our seams are open. Now what we want to do is we want to box our corners. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to line up those seams on both sides, sort of nest them together. And then you just want to sort of clip, since this is a really big boxed corner, we want to clip those two ends. And that should lay down nicely. So we're going to go to the other side. We're going to line up those seams. I'm going to put a clip to hold that. And then I'm just going to clip these two ends. And now what you want to do again, you're going to sew a 1/2 inch all the way down on both sides. Okay, so a 1/2 inch on both sides. Okay, so now we have our gussets all sewn down. And now it looks like this. Okay, so there is that half. So now what we want to do is we want to take this piece, and again we want to put right sides together. I'm going to clip this top so they stay together. And what we want to do now is we want to box the corners here. So I'm going to grab my ruler and I'm going to box my corners 4 inches on each side. So 4 inches on this side and 4 inches on this side. And the same with this one. Okay, now what we're going to do is take our scissors and we want to cut those out. Okay, again, we're going to sew this bottom piece a 1/2 inch across the bottom. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. I'm going to clip that first. Okay, and then I'm just going to, again, I'm going to put a clip on the sides. So we don't want this to shift at all. Okay, so I'm going to sew that and I'll be right back. Okay, so we have that sewn down and we are going to open this up and iron that seam down flat. Okay, and then again, we're going to go to the machine and sew a 1/4 inch on both sides of that center line. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have that done. What we want to do now is we want to take this, put right sides together, line these up. I want to pin that top again so that we stay straight. I'm going to iron this back. Just to keep that flat. And what we want to do now is we want to take this to the machine and we want to sew these 2 sides down. And I'm just going to put a pin there just to hold it till I get to the machine. Okay, so now we want to sew 1/2 inch straight down these 2 sides, back stitching when you start and when you stop. So I'll do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have our 2 side seams sewn down. And now what we want to do is the same thing as before. We want to box those corners. So first we want to open these seams. Forgot that step. And this will make it easier for us to sew down those gussets there. Okay. Now we want to do our gussets. So I'm going to open these up like before. We're going to match up those seams. Put a clip there. And then pull these edges so that they meet up. A clip here, go to the other side, match those seams up. Okay, clip. Okay. And match our ends up. And now we're going to take it to the machine. So a 1/2 inch straight down here. Turn it over. So a 1/2 inch straight down here. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have that all sewn down. 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch here. And this is our lining. So now before we join these two, what we want to do is we want to add our handles. Now I am using this webbing. You can also use fabric. Now if you use fabric, what you want to do is you want to cut your handles 2.5 inches wide by 6.5 inches long. And then what you want to do is, and I have just a sample here, it's certainly not as big as what the normal handle is. I just happen to have this. What you want to do is you want to take your 2.5 and you want to fold it in half and iron it, and then open it back up and then fold each side to the middle, iron that, and then fold this in half. And then you would want to top stitch all the way down, and that would be your handle. but I'm going to use this instead because I just happen to have this. So now what you want to do is you want to turn this inside out, or right side out, excuse me. Turn this right side out. Okay. And you want to attach your handles. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our handles and we're going to measure 3/4 of an inch on each side of this seam in the middle. So let me grab my little ruler and I'm going to basically line this up. I'm going to put the end of my ruler right where this seam is. And I'm going to measure over 3 1/4 or 3/4 of an inch. And that's where I'm going to start my handle. So 3/4 of an inch would be right there. I'm going to put my handle there, the edge of it. So we're lining up our edges. And I'm just going to put a clip there. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold this sort of under so that my handle's looking like that. And then I'm going to again measure 3/4 of an inch from that seam. So I'm going to put that right on the 3/4 inch mark. And then I'm going to put my handle right at the beginning of my ruler there. So now I'm 3/4 of a way from that seam. And I'm going to clip that. Okay, then I'm going to flip this to this side. I'm going to line up my ruler with the seam, measure over 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to start my handle right there. And I'm going to put a clip. I'm going to flip this so that my handle looks like that. Measure 3/4 of an inch. Start my handle right there. So now I'm 3/4 of an inch away from that side of the seam. Okay, so now our handle should look like this. Okay. Now what you want to do is you want to take this to the machine and you just want to top stitch probably no more than 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so those are sewn down, and if you can see, I don't know, there's just a little top stitch right there. I don't know if you can see it, and yeah, it's really hard to see, but just right there. So now what we want to do is we want to take our top piece, or excuse me, our outer piece, and put it inside the lining. So we want these right sides together, basically. And what we want to do is, first we want to try to get those corners down in each other. Okay. You want to make sure your handles are on the inside and match our seams up. Start clipping. Go to the other side, match that one up. Okay, clip that. And now we want to just start lining up the rest of it. I want to make sure that those tops match each other. I'm going to put one right where those straps are too, so I know that's going to hold together. Now put as many clips or pins as you wish. I like to put a lot of clips in there so I know it's not going to move as I'm sewing. And now what you want to do is you want to go to the machine and you want to sew a 1/2 inch all the way around, but you're going to leave an opening 4 inches or so. And I usually like to do it on the side away from the handles and the seams. So I'm just going to get my pen and I'm just going to measure about 5 inches or so. And I'm going to mark it so that when I come around to that, I know not to sew there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start and I'm going to back stitch at my start, go all the way around and back stitch at the end and leave this open. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have that all sewn down, 1/2 inch all the way around. And what we're going to do now is we're going to find that opening and we're going to turn it right side out. And it shouldn't have too much of a problem. Okay, so I'm just going to pop those corners out before I stick my lining back in. And then what we want to do is we want to put our lining inside. Making sure our corners are all matched up. Okay. And now what we want to do is we want to make sure that our outside and our inside are like rolled out here. Whatever you want to call it, lined up. Okay, you want to clean up that seam here because we're going to iron this and then we're going to top stitch it. So I'm just going to bring it over here to my iron. And I'm going to iron that. And if you have any problems, what I like to do is I usually grab a pin and I'll lay it down. I don't know if you can see this. I'll lay it down and then I'll just grab a pin and pull those together. So that they lay nicely. I'm going to do that all the way around and then I'll show you what the next step is. Okay, so now we have that all ironed down, the top. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it back to the machine and I'm just going to top stitch all the way around, making sure we close up that opening. And then I'll be right back. Okay, and there we go. I have that top stitched all the way around. And our basket is done. And again, you can change this to the other side. This is reversible. The handles will make no difference. And how cute is that? So there we have it. And I really like doing the top stitch or the opening at the top here so that our insides are really clean and you don't have to sew that opening up where it looks like that. I do like this much better. this way. So there you go. There's all our fabric basket. And now some other things that you could do with this is you could use these, like especially these big ones. You can use them for if you have children and they have like toys and things you could put in there. You can pretty much use them in any room that you have. And also, what I came up with was I thought you could make this into a cute little gift basket. So let me show you. Like if you have like some tissue paper. So you want to put some tissue paper in there, right? You want to make this into a little gift basket. I'm just going to grab some things. You could put some candy in there, and this is like a little perfume. You could put some jewelry, and I would like put this, wrap this in, something separate. Put that in there. Look, our little phone holders that we made. You can put that in there. So many things you could do with it. And then you could give it to them like this. And they get their gifts and a little something of yourself. So that's a really cute idea too. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial on the fabric baskets. You can do so much with them. Not only can you use them for yourself in your own house, but you can give them as gifts. People would love these. And you can even use them as a gift basket. So that's fun too. So if you enjoyed this video, I hope you give it a thumbs up. If you're new, I hope you subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you know when my next video comes out. And as always, happy sewing and sew something happy.